Neha Bafna.
Your words may lie, but the body never lies.
What made you choose psychology?
The opposite way. It did not get to psychology first. I started with dance movement therapy first. I've been dancing since then. I think it also comes from my mom. Oh my god, there's so much in the music as well. And there's so much with writing that I could do. I remember taking a standpoint against my father. How binge watching is becoming such a severe issue. How often do we ask that to our own self? We wait for others to ask us.
Let's talk about Tara.
By the people, for the people. Becoming more stronger, becoming more confident, becoming more better at communication, as simple as that. Using all art forms that we bring slowly on the table. You know the knowledge, you have the knowledge, you've worked on yourself, and now how can I get it to the people in a better form?
Wow. And what was next?
The next thing for my parents actually was to get me married. Have a space of recreational arts into my life. That's shedding the layers that had inside me the real me. To know that what resonates with you might just resonate with you. That this is my way of understanding my emotions. Because I know that this is my calling now. So can I just get myself to the depth of it?
Hi guys, today we have a very special guest with us, Neha Bafna. She's an artist and she's trying to get art back into our lives. She's also a psychology counselor and she does creative art therapy. She's a practitioner for a decade now. She includes dance, music, drumming, visual arts into this therapy and very interestingly integrates everything into a session for a wholesome experience for all of us. And I think we'll all get to learn a lot about art today and what it can, the magic it can do to us and our lives. So, Neha, welcome to our studio. And I'm so delighted and excited to know about your journey and everything about art, being an art lover myself. So, but before that, how are you today?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah,
And very excited to be doing this.
I think art keeps you going.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, that's my secret ingredient
I'm
for who
sure.
I am. Yeah.
Wow. So, Neha, I'm very excited to know about your journey, where it started, right from your childhood. What was the reason for you to get to this point? So, please
Hmm.
enlighten
Yeah.
us.
I think I'd like to begin from the moments and days when I actually started to get up on the stage and started dancing. So I've been dancer all my life since I've started to understand life. I've been dancing since then. I think it also comes from my mom. She's been a dancer. She trained me literally in the first initial few years, and I know there were times in my life when you cross your primary to secondary age, that puberty that you hit, and then that actually requires that in those sensitive years it requires for you to be really where the confidence comes from, etc. And I think later when I looked back into those years, I realized that how movement and dancing has helped me develop my personality, the way I am, the way I speak to people, the way I carry myself in general. I think that comes from movement and dancing, and which I have been carrying through my childhood literally. So yeah, it I think all began the first time I started to move my body and started to dance, and to the space and time where I actually passed out of the school and I was like, okay, I think I definitely know what I want to do with my life. It actually began with dancing. It actually
Wow.
began bringing dance just as an art form into my life, into other people's lives, etc. And that wasn't a very easy ride, honestly. Where I come from, a very conservative family, and like a roller coaster for me to convince my family that this could be a career as well. And there, I think, there I actually stood up for myself, knowing that I know that this is what I want. And I remember, right, just yesterday, I was speaking to somebody in the family, and I feel that I wonder how in that age I knew what I want to do. And I remember taking a standpoint against my father. Be like, and my father did not speak to me for almost a year. Yeah,
Wow.
when I was just what 16, and he decided to be like, isko to samajh nahi aane wala hai, so let me just do what I can do to not speak to her and go against her. And that actually gave me even more this thing that okay, the kind of person I am, I'm really very firm with what I want to do, and I would go headstrong to doing that. I did that. And then when I actually started to bloom as a person is when my parents also realized. Of course, my mother was always very supportive, but my dad also realized that, hey, she's doing great with what she loves. That's where her passion lies. That's how I think that became my mainstream without like with all the support around me, and then moving ahead in all different walks of my life and getting all different art forms into my life, literally to make it a whole new career for myself with all the resources I had, internal and external resources to support me to get to where I actually began my journey and to get to where I am today. With each and every day, I think there is a lot of support and energy that pushes me to do more. I think that's around me always. And
Wow.
yeah, that one difficult year got me where I am, I guess.
That's
Yeah.
so amazing. I
Yeah.
think you came with that clarity as a soul.
Yeah.
Because very rarely we know what we want to do at
Mm.
that age,
Yeah.
especially.
Mm.
So I think you're lucky there.
Yeah.
But so you started with dancing, like you
Yeah.
said, and what? So how did you get into your education? Like,
Mm.
what made you
Mm.
choose
Mm.
psychology,
Mm.
for
Mm.
example? What
Mm.
was that like?
Yeah, yeah. And that's also a funny story behind that because funnily I did my graduation in something else altogether. So I did like I got into another field which was even more creative, which was into visual arts. And that, but then that made me feel that, oh, that's a really monotonous work that I'm doing. I'm just working with the arts in terms of making artistic things. And I realized I am a person who wants to be all over everywhere. Bringing my creativity on table is something that gave me more joy. So that's how I actually, from there I moved to, I did work into that field. I moved to getting myself MBA into the management part of things, so that in case I need it in the future,
Like a
I know,
backup.
like a backup, that parents usually talk about, oh, become a CA, become, do your law, and do your, and that's what I was expected to be. They wanted to me to be a lawyer and all of that. And how I actually again be like, okay, can't let my creativity go for a toss when I actually get into something that's so monotonous. So then I did my MBA, and then I realized that how I want to take dancing to another level. And it actually began the opposite way. It did not get to psychology first. I started with movement, dance movement therapy first. All other art forms came into my life, one after the other, literally falling from one after the other. Like, hey, I think no, not just movement, there's visual arts also. Oh my God, there's so much in the music as well. And there's so much with writing that I could do. So then one led to the other, literally, for me. And I was lucky enough for me to have the maturity to know that what is the next best thing that I could do.
Hmm.
I did those certifications, and then I realized all of this has a psychology background. So I
Oh.
need to know the human psychology first for me to
Hmm.
apply these therapeutic intentions and purposes that it holds, like the value that art holds.
The science of
Yes,
it.
the science of it is very important. So then I think I got to doing my master's, my post graduation into counseling psychology, then my master's in clinical psychology. And then I got a hold of things that how could I actually combine them together and then know the benefit of it. And of course, it began with me, my self journey, from the kind of person I was, and so many hurdles that I would have because of my own issues with my own self, I guess. So I kept on working on those one by one, and
Can
those have
you
been,
share some of
yeah,
those, like
yeah.
your personal health issues, mental health, or what
Yeah,
were you
yeah,
going through that
yeah.
triggered this?
Hmm, hmm. Very interestingly, I think I've spoken to a very few of my people about this, but now I feel even more confident to talk about it, and hence I'm here to also openly talk about how me being underconfident, so weak and meek as a person, not okay with communicating with anyone and everyone in a public forum or a space where there are like hundreds of people and I need to go up on the deck and speak about any topic, something that would actually put me down. And I use that to get better. So, and I'm on the other side now, and I wonder sometimes how I would always be like, oh wow, how that person is talking so confidently up on the stage. I didn't even think or imagine that I want to get up there ever. But in my self journey of becoming more stronger, becoming more confident, becoming more better at communication, as simple as that, that were the things that I think were my hurdles in actually connecting with people in a social setup. May that be like just a classroom of 20 people. In my
Hmm.
first post graduation course of psychology counseling, there were just 22 people, and just getting up, getting like just raising your hand and speaking there was my issue. And I was so hesitant to even speak my point of view when you're studying psychology. And then I realized I think I need to really work on that. I mean, I never thought I would go up on stage and do my work with people. But yeah, I think it just began there, that can I just get better at communication? Can I just be confident into who I am as a person, into my being? Can I just be okay with the way I am? Okay. And it just began with that. And how I think I took more than 2 years to go for my therapy sessions, work through my issues that came up with my father, with my siblings, and so many things that one after the other came up during my session of. And I just called it, okay, let me give time to myself to work on myself, to get a better, to become a better person, to be able to hold space for other people into the field, right? Once you get into this field of mental health, you need to yourself be capable to hold, at least hold the space. Forget the skills and the techniques that you need to learn, but the basic, my presence, can I actually work on my presence? Because I think that's what was my trigger and my lacking point. So I picked it up from there, and I realized, wow, how arts was doing so much into my life, while talk therapy and arts combined worked wonderful for me to come out of it. It really like was shedding the layers that had inside me, the real me. And when that came up on surface, I started to feel me in real sense. And
Wow.
that was the moment. I still remember one of the few sessions when I went back home, having my hard time after that session, and breaking down and not speaking to anybody for a few days, and taking that time to let it seep in that this is me, this is who I am. And then confidently saying up, speaking up for yourself, and confidently being there at different occasions. And that kept on happening multiple times, for me to know, wow, I am happy being who I am, rather than over explaining myself so that I'm not judged, etc. And a lot of other things that I had, yeah, in my head already. Yeah.
Wow, that's such
Yeah.
a beautiful state to be. And
Yeah.
how old were you when you
Yeah.
felt like
Hmm.
healed and
Hmm.
confident
Hmm. Hmm.
back into your core?
Yeah. So I think I was 24, 25. Yeah. That's when this journey of the self work began. And
Okay.
yeah. Hmm.
Wow. And what
Hmm.
was next?
Hmm. The next thing for my parents actually was to get me married. But yeah,
As
of
all
course,
Indian parents
of
would.
course, I had some other
Such
plans
a
though.
no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah. So
So,
yeah,
yeah.
but I had other plans, and I wanted to take my learning journey to the next level. So I gave myself the 3 years for self work, at the same time studying more, knowing the science in most effective ways I can, learning from the best of the teachers. If that had me to travel to Bangalore, travel to Mumbai, and I did a lot of that. I went to Delhi, studied from various teachers, and because I know that this is my calling now. So can I just get myself to the depth of it?
Mm.
Yeah. And I decided to give myself that time, and I think I still keep learning. I still keep doing
Yeah,
that.
it's a
Yeah, that's,
process.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an ever going process that does not
Yeah.
stop for me. And I think the interest that it developed, the curiosity with which I learned a lot of things, helped me get to the bottom of it. right? Once
Hmm.
you know the depth of certain topics, you know then that, hey, it has worked. You know the knowledge, you have the knowledge, you've worked on yourself, and now how can I get it to the people in a better form so that they get
Hmm.
the best out of it? You know what I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
how
yeah.
it's
I
coming.
get it.
Yeah, so bringing the best version of myself on table, where may that be a group sessions, may that be one-on-one therapy counseling sessions, but bringing the best on the table became my next goal, that how can I bring the best version of myself out there and
Wow.
give back more than what I received. Honestly,
That's
that's my
amazing.
thing. Yeah.
So that's amazing, Neha. I am also very curious to know that at this point, what's your process of healing? Let's say, I
Mm,
am going through a mental health issue, let's say anxiety, and I come
mm,
to you. What
mm,
are the steps that you recommend, and how
mm,
does the process go?
mm. Wow, interesting. So, like we all human beings are so subjective in nature, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the two things that I actually keep in mind is, after doing this whole study of somatic CBT, I realized that how certain
I'm
things could
sorry,
be.
but can you explain that to the audience
Of
because
course,
it's a
of
very
course,
technical term,
yeah,
but what
yeah.
does it mean?
Somatic CBT, where somatic is the bodily sensations and awareness we work with, and CBT is a structured form of working where cognitive behavioral therapy techniques and tools that we use combining with the bodily somatic work that is done through sensations. Yeah. So once when I started to study that, I realized how sometimes the top to bottom approach works and sometimes the bottom to top approach works.
Hmm.
So I think particularly for anxiety, I've seen that a lot of people do not resonate with the questions like, what is the reason? Where is it coming from? If you get into the thought level process, does not really resonate or come out, or they're like, oh, I don't know what is it and where is it coming
Yeah.
from?
Yeah.
So how about then bringing the somatic and the vibrations and sensations of the body, using that to the core of the issue,
Hmm.
where is it coming from then? So I think these are the two approaches where I understand the client first, where is it coming from, what is the approach that will work best for this particular client, and then accordingly giving out processes. So if a person is more uh, wants to work on the process of the work that's happening, then we get to, okay, maybe going to the understanding of rawness of, if I speak about anxiety, where do you feel in the body, how do you
Hmm.
respond to that, the next time you feel it, what are there any sensations, with that sensations, how do we navigate those thoughts and energies and emotions that are felt in those moments? So we
Hmm.
discuss and navigate and understand during the sessions. We do a lot of trial and error with each client to know that what resonates with you might just resonate with you, that this is my way of understanding my emotions or my triggers in those moments, and how can I get the best out of myself in those moments. Yeah, so give the clients the experience of variety of things during the session. May that be using some prop and we move, and just notice, is the breath changing, is the heartbeat racing, is it that you're feeling more calmer when you're expressing yourself, is there something that's coming up while you're talking about it? So there's a lot of processing work that happens using all art forms that we bring slowly on the table, and very gently. It's a very subtle work that happens especially in a one-on-one setup,
Hmm.
because sometimes it can be really overwhelming to notice that there are so many triggers and stuff coming up,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do about it. Then that's when my like a therapist role comes, where you hold that space and create safety for the client and know that, hey, it's okay to feel these emotions while it's triggering a lot of other parts of you, and then can we move from one to the other and process that to let it out of our system first,
Hmm.
and then see what are we left with,
Hmm.
and then see, are these still triggers coming from your own thoughts, is it coming from your past traumas, is it somewhere stuck into your body? That's where the whole next few sessions moves in the direction based on where the client is coming from. I hope that
Wow.
answers
That
what.
sounds very interesting, in
Yeah,
fact. I mean, and it's
yeah.
a new concept
Hmm.
relatively because
Hmm.
we've heard about therapies, like medication is so prevalent, but I'm sure it doesn't work as good as the alternate
Hmm.
therapies. So I believe it starts with a conversation. Then you understand what I'm going through, let's say, and then you design a therapy session depending on
Hmm.
my pain
Hmm.
points. Is that
Hmm.
how it works?
So yeah, I like the word design, but what happens is sometimes there's a lot of a person-centered approach is what I use a lot, like a client-centered approach, where there's a lot that you also go through and come back to the session, right? So we do know what is it that I want to touch upon through the session. There's a baseline, like a rough plan ready. But at the same time, if there's something else that the client brings up that must have happened from the last session to the next session that we are into, then we first address beginning from where the client is coming from and then taking it to the next level of what our goals are through the therapy sessions, right?
Okay.
We decide like what are our therapeutic goals. So we're going to move towards those goals. My job is to get you to moving towards those goals. However, there's a lot that's happening in the day as well, through the day as well. We know the bigger picture is to get to the goal. So we begin from where we are at right now in this moment and then slowly get to that, hey, I think, are we ready to do something else? And I decided to maybe get you through this experience. Are you okay if we get there? So there's a more like a flexible space that we create for the client. At the same time, I encourage the client to push a little beyond where they are, and then allowing them to experience that confidence that, hey, I think I can get there and I can face my emotions now. And then so it's like a very gradual process. It's not like a one fixed solution that works for everybody. So it's a very gradual process to just know, engaging what the body language says, how the client is, what are the other things that the client is bringing to the table, are there more elements, and how are we actually bringing all together and creating a safe space for the client to express fully in each session then.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, could you also tell us the details of a session? Like, what all elements would you include? Of course, one is visual arts, but
Yeah.
how do you, curate a session for a client, and what all do you use?
So there are two things that I do honestly on my day-to-day basis. One is one-on-one counseling therapy session, which is more like a flexible space where I don't always have a set plan. But I do know that I definitely next session, because in the previous session I do mention that, hey, I think the client is ready to move on to the next thing, and next session I'm going to work on maybe boundary setting. One of the elements and exercises that we'll get to. I just write that. And then we see in that session how the feel and the presence of the client also is. Where is the client at? Is it like a ready space to get to boundary setting or not? And the other part of my sessions that I do is a group therapeutic space where there is like a fixed baseline and a plan ready, where if you're working with the group of people on a regular basis, we know that we are going to be together for 6 to 8 sessions, suppose, and this therapeutic space is created for a particular topic. Suppose anxiety is one of the topics that we are working for, an overall generalized anxiety that we are talking about here. Then we have a fixed set plan that, okay, I think this session would have 4 things maybe we'll be doing around anxiety. Maybe we'll do some psychoeducation also there. At the same time, we'll do some processing work through one activity, and then there's a closure. So group sessions in a therapeutic setup, usually for my sessions, usually there's an opening that we do, like an opening for them to get to the set and the feel of the session. Then we do a bit of warm up to dive into the main exercise that we get to. And then after the main exercise, we do a closure to what we did in terms of verbalization, sharing, and expressions of emotions. If anybody has any residue of anything that we've gone through, and then we do a closing practice as a regular practice. So opening and closing remains the same for such sessions, and then the middle part keeps changing.
Got it.
For each topic and exercise and objective that we begin with. May that be corporate, may that be women's group, may that be a particular topic-based group that is anxiety or anything. So it's different for each this thing. But that's a structure that I usually follow. Follow
Like a
setup.
framework.
Yeah.
So, but then every modality you use, let's say dance or music, like, is it correlated to a particular pain point? How do you, kind of curate this? I'm like still trying to go a little deeper into this science of it, that since you've done this very rare combination of psychology and alternate therapies, how do you decide, what modality would be right for this particular issue? Is there a correlation?
Not really. There is no correlation, but yeah. So it's an intermodal practice that it's called as. So we didn't just use any one art form or any like just talk therapy, but then a combination is something that I always believe in, and I've seen that it has worked wonders. And when I say combining one or two or four, depending on how much time do I have with a particular group or a one-on-one setup, what happens is it's about the resonance also. So there's a lot of importance given to resonance in these therapeutic practices, where suppose I am person who's more kinesthetic in nature, and I do know that I can express myself using movement a lot. Me being a dancer, I've always been it's very easy for me to connect to that sense, right? If somebody is more like a visual sensory person and wouldn't be able to actually get up and move, if I am to ask them to get up and move their bodies, but after the movement, if I give them a piece of, just slide a piece of paper and some crayons and colors, then maybe the real picture comes out that, hey, I think now I'm more comfortable expressing myself.
So the first touch point could be anyone.
Yes. And then from there, seeing the navigating from person to person, it's very different. If that person is like, hey, I just want to sit and talk to you, I don't think I want to do any exercises today, then all right, we do that. So that we know that today's need is that, or this person resonates with visual arts more than movement, or resonates with breath work. So we sit back and do some mindfulness breath work as well for that person to actually communicate and release certain things. So it's very much subjective and in person, like a very much a choice that a person makes through the session.
Sure.
And in all our sessions, there's no right or wrong way to do it. So we don't really push and force people to, hey, no, I'm asking you, gotta do this in a group
There's
session.
no template.
No. So it's like, oh, if you feel that you want to give this a try, give this a shot, maybe you've not done this before, would you be interested in just getting yourself to move your body, maybe at the 3 different levels that we have, simply giving a topic and leaving it there, and then seeing if the client is able to actually get there. Is it uncomfortable initially, but actually creating the comfort that they didn't know that they have with their body, So giving that time and energy and space, also gauging the entire group's energy and where is it coming from.
Very intuitive.
It's also equally important to know when working in a group setup or working with an online client also. Then we know that, hey, I think this is not working, and then can we move on to something else, and do you want to express using something else? So as simple as that helps the client get to where we intend, both of us intend to get to.
But eventually it's ideal that a person experiences all the art forms, like as a holistic experience, right? Because I'm sure every art form would transform something particular. So in fact, that's what we should next talk about is, let's say, a dance movement. Scientifically, what does it do to me within me? What is it touching upon? And similarly, music. So can we go through all the modalities and talk about what is
So I'm not sure that if the first question I think that you asked was if all art forms must be experienced by each one. No, it depends on where that person is coming from. If I may technically talk about it, it depends on your resonance. Is it like a past, like really intense trauma that's stored into the body? Then we do the body work. Or is it just an anxiety that's there based on what's the age group that we are catering, what the kind of person, gender, where that person is coming from based on that? Then specifically we need to work with those modalities.
Okay.
So resonance plays a major role here. And if I were to talk about movement or music in particular, what are the points that it actually touches? I'd like to speak about movement more than anything else, I guess, is because I feel that in dance movement therapy, it says that, your body never lies. Yeah. Your words may lie, but the body never lies. So I really feel that sometimes the person is saying, I don't resonate with movement, or I don't resonate with visual arts, but I know that maybe a person is coming from a deep-rooted trauma. Then we know that somewhere down the line, we carry that trauma through our bodies. We actually hold it inside our bodies.
There's a blockage.
So sometimes there's a lot of blockage with the kind of person talks or uses the body language while speaking, feels that, hey, I'm very confident, but then will always have the body language that does not show that the person is confident, you know? So what are the blockages that are sometimes present into the body,
Hmm.
which may not consciously be aware of it, but through the body work, I know that opens up a lot of things. It opens up the unsaid, unknown parts, like really parts from your subconscious mind that comes on surface through movement. And sometimes it's just stretching, and we're just maybe tapping, literally
Hmm.
just doing that. And they realize, hey, I've not touched my body this way before. And what are we doing when you're touching our body this way before? Maybe giving it the attention and the energy that it requires for you to build that connection with the body first, then get deeper to the emotions level and the breath work, etc. So I think a lot of things begin with the bodily sensation and the body awareness that we call it. That actually, so when I work with children also, I've seen that kids are so open and going haphazard all over the place. But at the same time, if I really want to calm them down, I can't tell them, hey, sit down and let's sit quietly. They can't do that.
Yeah.
We do a lot of haphazard movement with the
Mm.
body, we do a lot of touch and tapping. And then when I tell them that they're tired and can we sit down
Yeah.
now? That's where there's a lot of, so how different group resonates with movement differently.
Hmm.
My intention also changes with each group, right?
I'm sure.
I know that there's a person who's come up with a lot of traumatic incidences, or it could be grief in simple terms. And there is that, hey, I think I've spoken about the grief a lot, and there's a lot of the crying that has happened. A lot of things have gone into it. But at the same time, I don't sometimes feel great in my body. I'm not able to sleep sometimes.
Hmm.
Or I'm not able to, there are no thoughts, but I'm not able to. Then what is it then? Yeah. So then the questions like, hey, is there any aches or pains in the body anywhere? And then the actually shoulder pain, the lower back pain. I do have clients who come up with some traumatic past childhood incidences and referred by a physiotherapist literally, and say that, hey, I think this client, I've tried everything medically that I can,
Hmm.
but we don't know what can we do next.
The
And
psychosomatic.
there is a lot that's happening. The shoulder pain is too much, or the sciatic pain, we feel that it's that, and we don't know what do we do with that. That's where the question comes, and then we get to the deeper cause of things.
Hmm.
And when this processing happens, along with, of course, physiotherapy and a lot of medication and this processing work with therapy sessions, we've seen then it actually turning the tables around for that person
Wow.
and making those changes. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been going through this pain, physical pain for so long, and I'm actually getting over it now by just processing these stored emotions again. There are lots of emotions that we stored inside, and very unknowingly, we don't
Yeah.
even know. And there's a lot of examples I think I can give. But yeah, one of the things
Yeah.
is this.
So
Yeah.
DMT is
Yeah.
what I think you start with.
Yes. Yes.
Usually, which
Yeah.
basically breaks the ice, basically eases you out and eases the
Hmm.
energy
Hmm.
to then get
Hmm.
on to the next art form.
Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
how,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
different. Again, of course, we talk about it first. In my one-on-one setup, I do have the leverage to ask, which is the modality that you resonate more with. Would you be okay moving? Because in the first session of it itself, if I say movement, and if that person is very conscious with the body or has body image issues, then I don't think that the client would feel comfortable to go to the next level. So it's more like knowing where the client is, picking up from where it is, and moving on from there. So the need analysis is something that we call it. It's done first. Knowing what's the need of the group or need of the person, and then picking that data and that content, and from there to seeing what next could be done
got
in
it.
terms of the processing work. Yeah.
So I believe the number of sessions would again depend on, you know,
Yeah.
the intensity
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and also, let's say, you know, I go through this healing process and I feel much lighter, I feel balanced. But what is the recommended in my daily lifestyle then to maintain that state?
Hmm.
Because I think that's again very challenging.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of
Yeah.
people go take therapies, but
Hmm.
again back to square one,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
we are all living this mundane lifestyle
Hmm.
with this environment. And so, how does that
Yeah.
go, you know, once I'm
Hmm.
back to my usual
Yeah,
life?
absolutely. I think that's the right question, and I think people also must know what therapy does and what therapy does not do, right? So in my first session itself, when a client comes, I usually mention the structure with which I follow through, which has one element, that how each therapist works differently, right? But I think I usually incorporate homeworks in my session,
Hmm.
where with respect to what we've done through the session, we give out as one of the part as homework, that you do this and practice this maybe how much ever times you can, and come back with your feedback that, hey, I think this worked for me and this did not work for me. And why that is also given, because I usually tell my clients that my job is to make you independent and not
Yeah,
dependent on me or the sessions.
yeah.
uh,
Empower them.
exactly. So my intention is, from the first day itself, I say it out right to the client that, hey, you are here so that you become independent in your own body, in the person who you are. So we are here to gather what are the skill set that you can actually get to, or what are the things that you can apply if you ever in the future stop taking therapy sessions and you go through. Then what is it that works for you and that has worked for you in the sessions or during the homeworks that we've given during your practice by yourself. The intention of homework again is, independently do you practice that, and does that make you feel okay, does that help you or not? So when we say that my job is to make you independent, that's where the client starts taking the ownership for themselves, that, hey, I'm not here to just dump myself fully, or
Hmm.
and I'll be fine, then it's like a quick fix solution for me.
Hmm.
But you also have to put in your energy
Hmm.
to actually take in some mechanisms, some coping mechanisms, that you need to learn healthier ways to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
So they start taking ownership through of these therapy sessions, rather
Sure.
than just giving the ownership onto the therapist that, hey,
Hmm.
I'm here and these are my problems, can you just give me the solution? So it does
Yeah.
not work like that.
You're basically creating a base for them,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then I build on it,
yeah, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so, let's say, in a daily life, what would you recommend for a human, for any
Mhm,
human, as we are
mhm,
designed? What kind of art should we include in our daily lifestyle
mhm,
to maintain this condition so that we don't even get to a state of imbalance?
mhm.
Because I think inherently we all have this right brain, the
Yeah,
creative side, which is
yeah,
which is
yeah.
so faded, and we don't tap into it.
Mm.
As an artist, as a practitioner, what do you practice, and what would
Yeah.
you recommend people to
Hmm.
do?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, if I funnily say what do I practice, it's quite a lot that I do.
Let's go through your day.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I think the days, okay, if I may just go to the schedule, there's a lot of family time that I give in the morning and the night before I sleep. So I do believe that that grounds me when I am with my partner, with my family, with the other kids in my family, and if I'm with them, that actually grounds me and makes me feel held and connected to my people. And I think as human beings, we all need that sense of belongingness, is something that I get when I am with my family. Or in the nights before I sleep, maybe just having a social life where I actually connect with the people, I like-minded people, where I love talking, and there are these um heart over like heart-touching conversations that really helps me feel more grounded, feeling more human.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really helps me stay true to my own emotions and feelings in the moment. And I think I believe that self check-in in each moment is really important. Like you started by asking, how are you feeling right now in this moment? So how often do we ask that to our own self? We wait for others to ask us, but how often do we do that self check-in, that, hey, I just did this, I just met this person, or I just met this client, or I just spoke to somebody. How do I feel now? Was that a good conversation? Did that bring up something else for me? Do I need to work on something? So just that quick check-in has
Mm.
always worked for me
Mm.
during the day when I'm at work. And secondly, I think I tell a lot of corporate sessions also, where I go and take, where I believe that taking enough breaks is very important. Knowing what's your threshold, what's your capacity, or what's your bracket, that this is it. Beyond this, I'm just dragging myself, then neither that's helping in your work nor that's helping in your own mental health, right? So taking those enough breaks, and breaks can be different for each one. So what I do also in between my two sessions, I make it a point that I get up, because I'm a very kinesthetic person. I get up, maybe stretch a little, move my body a little bit, or maybe sip in some coffee and go out, breathe some fresh air, and then come back to my therapy room.
Like
So I
a
think,
recharge.
yeah, that recharge is something that I often suggest a lot of people. That has been very helpful. And may that be, oh, I go to corporate, like I go to teachers training sessions in schools and colleges. I say the same thing for them also. That the kids also do require that recharging, like a kinesthetic break, I call it,
Yeah.
in those sessions. That how can you actually, after every 25 to 30 minutes, are anywhere attention spans are going down nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Big
Right?
time.
So how about actually knowing what's my attention span or what's my capacity, and then
Hmm.
working around with that? So can we take some kinesthetic breaks or some breath work and breaks through that? That's also kinesthetic. Your breath is moving, your chest is
Yeah.
moving.
Pretty
Your
much.
there's a lot that's changing when you change your breath.
Your breath is dancing within.
Exactly. There's a lot that's happening. So I think enough breaks and finding your ways to ground yourself is something that I would suggest. That has been helping me get better. And if still overwhelming days and emotions, I do go through that as well, being a human. Uh, then there comes a lot of other parts there where I would actually get to, of course, I have my own scheduled therapy sessions for myself because I go through so much. So I go for therapy, and there are these scheduled days and time slots where I go for my supervision and therapy sessions. So that has been very helpful for me to let loose, and somebody to show me the mirror of where I can get better, what more can I do differently in my work, in my personal life, in my personal relationships also. Is it affecting my work, affecting my relationships? Something that needs some self sort of introspection. Being into this field, I think, is required for me to get to the root of where am I doing, like, as a complete person, am I being fully present for my partner, for my other relationships?
Yeah.
So I think I do that work as well, and that has helped me live a balanced life. Otherwise, it can just be very haywire and
Yeah.
overwhelming. In short,
I think we're all seeking for that balance, right?
Yeah,
Every single day.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think what this does is gives you the tools
Hmm.
to deal with
Hmm.
your own emotional ups and downs.
Hmm.
And these are very simple tools that we all can use.
Yeah.
And it feels so liberated and empowered, right? That you don't need an external entity or a person
Hmm.
to depend on.
Hmm.
I think that independent feeling is
Yeah.
very liberating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's beautiful. But
Hmm.
let's say, we have 24 hours in a day,
Hmm.
and like I personally, I thrive on music, and it's in fact, I need to listen to music at least 4 hours a day to feel
Yeah, I've heard
fulfilled.
that.
So I'm just like, is there any standard, or rather a recommendation for any human to kind of have these must-haves in a day?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
recreational activities.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you would prescribe
Hmm.
or suggest even
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
any human
Hmm.
across the world?
Yeah. So I'll tell you how dancing works for me. Yeah. Maybe visual arts works for you. But the right word is recreational arts. Can we just bring in recreational arts into our life on a daily basis? May that be going out and moving your body, like you going out to play badminton every day? Or are you actually going for some dance classes every day? Or just group classes where you're just going, interacting, moving your body, going for yoga, stretches, meditations? So are you a part of any recreational art forms? Then fine, of course, what works for me may not work for everybody, right? So for me personally, if you ask me, what do I do to release my stress or release or have a space of recreational arts into my life? That's Kathak for me. I go for Kathak classes almost every other day, and that has been really like my centering space, where that just, however, like physically I'm tired, mentally I'm exhausted, but I go there and I come back recharged. It's always been that I come back recharged. So I think for each person I would suggest that um, knowing which art forms actually brings out the best out of
Again,
you.
the resonance,
Yeah, the resonance, and also brings that, childhood, like the childlike
inner child.
self that comes up for you. That's the one for you. May that be just sitting and reading a book and then writing some pointers about it.
Mm.
Or certain people I've seen that during lockdown, I remember me getting to actually, after my meditation practices, I would actually sit with my book and pen and write down poetries.
Wow.
That was very therapeutic
Yeah,
for me.
it is.
Yeah. So because I had the time and energy and the bracket of giving that slowness into my day, I would do that. So
Mm.
now it also depends on what kind of professional you are, or entrepreneur. What is it that works and the capacity that you have to bring in art for you? But yeah, definitely knowing which art forms resonates with you and bringing that into your life at least for 10 minutes. At least begin your day or end your day with that, or have like end of the work hours, I think I'm going to do this and do this for myself.
Give
Maybe
that
go for
me
a walk.
time,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
That
A downtime. I call it a downtime.
Downtime, yeah.
Yeah, we're always on uptime and always up on guard that, hey, I need to get this done, get that done. But how about actually giving yourself that downtime to be you?
And very consciously, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we tend to ignore it.
Yeah.
Because it's not on our priority list.
Exactly.
Like we have such a long list of tasks and we tend to ignore it. But I think, to consciously get that into our lifestyle would be a game changer.
Yes,
I mean, our
yes.
productivity, efficiency
Would go up, of
so much
course.
more.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an
yeah.
amazing tip.
And I think that would also help us be more, like, it's like, how do you fill your own cup?
Yeah.
Then you can give more. Only if you have, you know how to give more. So that would help not just at your workspaces, but in your relationships, your presence at home, your presence at work, your presence as a leader. If you're into a role of leadership, then that really changes the whole game. That changes your whole space and the presence where you are required to play different roles. So that actually fills your cup of different roles that you play.
It's reconnecting to yourself,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. And that's
Wow.
absolutely
Yeah.
required. And like you said, giving it a priority is more important than just knowing what I'm going to do. Yeah. Just know that I know that these 10 minutes I'm going to do this. Maybe every day I do different things. Someday I go for swim, someday I go for badminton,
Or
someday
do
I
nothing,
just dance.
maybe.
Exactly. Do nothing. Just watch birds in the sky, or just watch the trees, and just maybe be, of course, not be on the phone, but just 10 minutes of your time.
Being with yourself.
So prioritizing that time is the first step.
It's important.
And then knowing what recreational art forms do you want to bring it into your life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Also, psychology now, if we go a little deeper into the science of it. I mean, since you did it together because you wanted to bring out that element, can you elaborate a bit more on how art marries psychology and, what's the correlation?
Interestingly, that it happens that we all have a different sides of us that comes up. However, some people show that side by simply, I would say, by simply connecting with somebody or talking. Some people actually use it that, hey, can I just pick up a pen and paper and just write about what's happening to me right now? And in those moments when you're actually expressing yourself, psychologically, like on a behavioral level, what's happening is you're actually dumping a lot outside of you that's happening inside of you. And we all, as human beings, require that dumping spaces, that space of release that happens. That's where art comes in form and picture. Because we know that as human beings, as the behavioral science of psychology says, that, creating a space, space of comfort and a space of you being you. If there is this imbalance, that's when we know something is not okay. Hey, I think I'm just being too reactive. Am I getting too angry or aggressive these days? Am I not listening and just being reactive rather than being responsive to anything anybody asking me? May that be a small thing? Then there's a moment that you know that, hey, I think I need help. Or maybe I need to do something with my thoughts and emotions and the bodily sensations. So I think it begins with what art does to human beings is bringing their awareness to use. right?
Mm.
What I mean by that is I'm aware something is not okay in me. My relationships are not going very well. Or forget relationships. I myself don't feel okay and comfortable in who I am these days. I have heavy heads in the morning or headaches. I don't know. I'm not able to sleep well. These are all signs and symptoms that the body is saying. These are the symptoms that we know that it's coming from the behavioral science. Okay, that's coming from the person that we are through the psychology. What do we do about it? That's where I think art forms,
The
I've seen,
solution.
yeah, that comes up that hey, you are in the awareness of what's happening. What can we do to navigate that? That's where the other all other art forms come in picture, where it gives you the direction to those things, to those symptoms that are actually that's experienced by a human being. So you know how it actually combines in such a way that it's you don't have to put an effort to combine it. It's an easiest way to actually let yourself
It's
out.
very natural to
Yes,
us.
that's why I feel that art is very easy for people to connect with because
Mm.
it comes very naturally. Imagine
Mm.
in your childhood, everybody has moved their body, everybody has used colors and art forms, everybody has played like role playing or something, acting and or drama, therapeutic. So these are all therapeutic and it's in their own way because we've experienced it in our childhood. It
Mm.
just literally goes back to triggering those memories, and then you're doing a lot with your body and mind
Mm.
while you think you're doing some activity and exercise in a therapeutic space, but there's a lot that touches upon to the spaces of who you are as human, because it just is very naturally, it's just very natural way of expressing yourself. And
Yeah.
that's why I think the combination, this marriage is really easy. Like really works
Yeah, I think
wonders.
fundamentally it's all about expression
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we as humans are designed to express,
Hmm.
and art gives you that platform
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
express, which is
Yeah.
also a release,
Hmm.
and then you
Hmm.
feel lighter.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
simple, actually.
Exactly.
It's just
Exactly.
complicating it.
Yeah, well, because people think that, hey, I think there's a major cause to what's happening to me, and I don't know. Of course, a therapist's job is to connect those dots and to make it easy
Yeah,
and to bring different ways of modalities for them to express themselves.
just
Maybe they don't
revive
know
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's all
It's like
there.
it's like rephrasing a sentence. How do
Hmm.
we rephrase it?
Hmm.
It's literally that we are rephrasing it, and it just getting it accessible and easy for them to express themselves then. Yeah.
Wow,
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm.
So let's talk about Tara. I
Yeah.
think that's your beautiful sacred space that you've
Hmm.
created. So
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
educate us as to what is the vision for Tara, and yeah,
Hmm.
what's
Hmm.
next?
Hmm. So I think Tara very creatively began with this whole idea of so we have a space where we've written that we want to touch 1 million lives. That's the vision that Tara holds.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And touch 1 million lives. Why? How? So I am bringing everything that I've learned under one roof. So bringing holistic wellness and through creative arts therapy and creative art forms, not using the word therapy because we do have different sections at our center space. Because some people would say that, hey, I think I know that arts is working for me, but can I learn the arts? So there's a skill based art forms, there is also therapeutic spaces, and there is a therapy space. So we've divided everything under three for people to touch and know themselves. So look at themselves with renewed lenses, literally.
Mm.
And how are we providing this safe space for them through Tara is what our intention is. And when I say touch 1 million lives, very nicely we tell people that I don't tell people that, hey, I think I don't own this space. I'm just a person who's taking care of it and who's actually running the space, because it's actually,
Facilitating it.
yeah, facilitating it, because I don't want to call it mine. Then it loses the essence of actually we're touching 1 million lives by the people for the people. The place is built like that. It's built by the people and it's actually for the people who wants to come and experience it.
That's
So
beautiful.
I think I really want to stick to the intent and the core of which Tara believes in. That can we make all creative art forms accessible to people. So we do hold free sessions also in the month, where they are community based sessions where you just come, people who cannot really afford and still want to be a part of such community and such art forms and want to experience the magic of it. Then hey, there's a space for that too.
Wow.
So Tara wants to touch upon a lot of different kinds of people, through building the right kind of people, building a sense of community there, and then reaching out to various age groups, various backgrounds where people come and actually very selflessly give more than
Wow.
just receive. And I think receiving happens very naturally.
Mm.
So receiving will happen, but can we begin by giving? And I
Mm.
tell everybody coming at that, if you are going to be a part of the team, then our intent is to selflessly give first. And I think the reciprocation will, that the cycle will
Yeah, that's
continue.
very
Yeah,
universal.
yeah,
That's so beautiful.
yeah,
And so right now it's located in Pune,
yeah,
right? Any
yeah.
expansion plans? Ah.
Yeah, as of now, I think we're just looking at the next goal, smaller goal. But yes, we do want to reach globally to a lot of people. When I say a million lives, oh, one of my friends was very funnily asked, "Oh, once you've reached a million lives, what about the next step then?" I was like, "The another 10 million lives then," and we keep doing that one step at a
Yeah,
time.
and why
Doesn't
not 8 billion then?
of course, the next thing would be that, and the next thing would be that. But yeah, we're taking our baby step towards reaching billions and millions of lives,
Well,
by
more power
creating.
to you guys. I think it's the
Yeah.
need of the hour and
Mm.
it's amazing work. We would
Hmm.
love to contribute in
Yeah.
whatever way we can.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
think it's a collective effort.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
amazing.
Hmm.
Wow.
Thank you so much for doing and saying that also.
Also, a little bit on NLP,
Huh.
because since
Hmm.
you also train, what
Hmm.
like what's the
Hmm.
process
Hmm.
under
Hmm.
NLP?
Hmm.
What's
So
your
NLP
format?
stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming, and I think a lot of us know that. But when I combine that with DMT or combine that with any other art forms, I've seen that how creative arts therapy is very flexible. Its nature is really very flexible. You must have experienced that, how it's not sticking to one thing or one process or one structure to it. It's a very unstructured process or way of actually using those modalities. And NLP actually brings structure to it. So I use that, maybe if it's a corporate session with some objective that's given, then how do I combine creative arts therapy with NLP? Because there's a structure to NLP, and that
Yeah,
structure
can
to
you also
bring,
go a
yeah,
little technical on NLP in the
huh,
sense because it's
hmm,
neuro
linguistic
linguistic.
programming.
So a little bit on what it does to your brain.
Yeah, yeah. So, as the name suggests, neuro linguistic programming. So the basics of NLP says that how your language can change your thought process, and how these thought processes can actually change the reality of your life. Yeah,
Wow.
by bringing the behavioral changes, by bringing the shift in your perspective, the shift in your in who you are, and changing that reality for yourself. It's called the NLP is actually called the shortcut towards actually bringing that shift in the
Oh,
shift in your
wow.
reality. And when I
Also
say
to
that,
manifest, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Is
so
it?
how do we begin with linguistics first,
Ah.
and then bringing, and there are a lot of like deeper, there's a lot that my teacher taught me, but yeah, the basics, the base of NLP would be that. And bringing that structured form into movement by combining these two. So for example, suppose if I give you an example of the college going students and the sessions that I take for them once a year, a few universities I'm collaborated with. So we have a structure of one topic that I want to actually touch upon through of NLP that's there. Yeah, so how can I bring movement and more playfulness and more visual arts or all art forms
Hmm.
to touch upon these three topics? Suppose so one structure, suppose it's about the triad of life. So how do I bring in these elements to make it more resonating, to make, so they say, no, right, when your body learns, the learning stays with you. So we don't
Hmm.
talk about these concepts of NLP. That's important at this age and time that you are at. You're about to just graduate and go out to your work, or become a professional, or have your own startup, or work with somebody, apply for jobs. What is it that you need? We know that these are the topics that I think I want to touch upon. But how about bringing it into kinesthetic way of teaching that same topic? So
Okay,
I
so you
don't.
combine words with movement?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I combine that, and then in the end, we draw the points that, hey, did we actually learn these things? And when I say I'm again becoming a facilitator here, I'm not telling that I think this absolutely works and you need to apply this into your life.
There's
But
no
what we're
set
doing,
formula.
yeah. But what you're doing is doing some activities around that, bringing it into the experience of it, and then asking them, hey, were you able to experience something else here? Were you able to
Hmm.
think differently? Were you actually thinking about this, or was it easy, uncomfortable, comfortable? What came up for you while you did this?
Hmm.
And then we draw the whole point of what we were trying to portray here, and which is a concept from neuro-linguistic programming. And then there is whole picture for them, and how now it will stay with them for the longest of the time, because the learning is inside the body now. They've
Hmm.
actually not sat and heard somebody speak about
Oh,
it,
it's
but they got up
experience.
and moved and experienced certain things for
It goes
certain
in your
topics.
cell memory.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's how the learning stays with you for the longest of the time. So I think I bring more kinesthetic learning to wherever I go.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and that's how I combine NLP with DMT. In my teachers training program as well, in my corporate sessions, in my sessions with college going students,
Hmm.
depending on what we are catering, what their objective is, and then of
Hmm.
course the details are
Hmm.
depending on what's the objective that the corporate is coming up with, or etc. Yeah.
Nice.
Hmm.
Amazing.
Hmm.
Also, is there a study done around this? Like, is there any case study or
Hmm.
papers
Hmm.
available
Hmm.
on art therapy,
Hmm.
which, like for a
Hmm.
human, we
Hmm.
always seek for evidence.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
are there any studies
There's
that
a
you would,
lot. Yes, there's a lot for
what comes on
all.
top of your mind right now?
Mm, I think there's a lot. So I did a research study myself, and for a project that I was doing for how. So during that study, I read a lot of other papers about binge watching being one of the core topic right now. This
Hmm.
was done 2 years ago when I actually got myself to study and go deeper into the study of how mental health is affected by binge watching, and the other elements of loneliness, rejection sensitivity as one of the elements of the study, and how arts can do wonders for children or for adults at this, who are actually getting into the loop of binge watching and the habits. It's becoming a part of addiction.
It
And
is.
yeah, yeah. And how engaging yourself with these different art forms can actually bring about a better, effective mental health conditions, that
Hmm.
people are seeing the changes here. So I think during that time I read a lot of new papers to support my study also, and I was stunned by the two sides of the paper, of course. One is how binge watching is becoming such a severe issue, and how it's important for us to bring these art forms. It became even more affirming for me to know that, hey, we need to do this for a lot more people, because I know this is helping. I know this will work. And these research papers talks about it, that
Hmm.
how art forms into the lives of people can actually get their productivity level up, and and how their productivity level is going down by attention span is reducing through the binge watching. So I think that gave me these two sides, where I understood how I am more responsible to do more of what I'm doing, and bringing the power of it to people, so that they know that replacing binge watching with art forms or recreational arts would actually help them get better in lots of ways, then actually the effects that it holds now, the binge watching and its side effects that it has,
Oh,
ill
I'm
effects.
sure it would.
Yeah, so these are the research papers I
Hmm.
think that comes to my mind, and a lot that I on a regular basis I read for my particular clients. While working with various clients, we need to go back and read up a little more about how, suppose for example, PTSD, and how for post traumatic stress disorder, or the symptoms that shows up in PTSD, and how I need to bring in more breath work and mindfulness into the lives of, for this processing work that needs to be done for the emotion that are stored inside of you. There are lots of papers around that has done wonders, that have been very effective. Maybe talk therapy has not worked as effectively for certain clients, in the papers that I've read, and how bringing more movement and more playfulness into the session has actually let these emotions come up in unknowing ways, and the processing happened and it's out of their system without even they realizing that I did this work.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are so many such papers who talk about these various trauma incidences that people have gone through and how that has worked differently for these different groups, uh, depending on what the study talks
Wow.
about. Yeah.
That's amazing. And
Hmm.
across the world right now, how popular is this? And what's
Hmm.
happening
Hmm.
outside India, in India?
Hmm.
What's going on?
I love talking about this to people because I think now, post lockdown, people are now opening up to the concept of, oh, dance movement can be a therapeutic space. Oh, visual arts can be therapeutic in its own ways. Yeah, so I think it's really popular in Western culture, and it's been there since now years together. But it's taking some time, I think, in our country to be aware and to be open to this and considering this more than a hobby, because people think
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's more like a hobby and I'll be fine, and I don't need to go to a therapist to experience art and its therapeutic benefits. I don't need to go to anybody else. So it's beyond hobby. It's something that awareness is coming up now into the minds of people, though we still struggle a lot, I guess, by making people understand that how it is research based, it's effective, it has more research backed modality, and it takes we take our own time to actually express it to people and make them aware that this is effective, this is beyond just a hobby. And I think that's a lot of people into the community of dance movement therapy are doing this, and I honor the work that people are doing in our country to get the benefit of arts to more and more people, because I think what Tara and me we're doing is just limited to where we are, and of course we'll aim to be where we want to be, but let's also acknowledge the other people into the community of other therapists into the community of art forms are really putting themselves out there and doing so much work to spread this awareness. And I think that in turn is also helping us
Of
reach out to more
course.
people. So
It's,
this cross reference is in terms of awareness is helping so much unknowingly to a lot of people. And I'm glad that the entire community is building up to it's like making that noise out there that hey, this is effective. So that's what is happening now in our country. Though it's very easy out there in the Western culture and in the Western countries, very easy to go to a session which requires, oh, I think I need trauma focused therapist, and that would be more kinesthetic work, and I want some somatic therapist. So that's more like people are more open to knowing what I want and going out there and getting the help. Here it's opposite. We need to tell the clients that hey, this requires somatic work, you need to go to a somatic therapist, you need to go to a dance movement therapist, or you need to go to a person who resonates more with the processing work that needs to be done. So I think we refer the clients to other therapists as well, knowing that this is required for them. So we are actually a lot of time goes in psychoeducating also to the client that
Yeah. I
you
think
need.
there's a need to spread awareness.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's where
yeah,
we are right
yeah,
now, just
yeah,
educating
yeah,
about it.
yeah. We're doing enough. A lot of people are doing a lot, but that's not enough, I guess. I need to do more for people to keep it very natural way of going to a therapist that way.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
access is so important.
yeah.
I mean, today we have very less access to such
Hmm.
modalities.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, even with our brand Co-Evolve, that's our intent
Yeah.
to basically make it available to
Hmm.
maximum people across the
Hmm.
globe.
Yeah.
Because I think once you get access is when you would even be willing to
Hmm.
experience. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
more power to us.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that also brings me to a point where uh, it's even more as a responsibility to make it accessible, because a lot of people on the name of hobby unethically are practicing these
Oh,
practices,
yeah.
and how we need to play this role of creating this as an ethical practice, and not if And I do that. If I don't think I'm capable enough to take care of any particular issue of a client, I do refer it to somebody. And that's an ethical practice. If I think I'm not trained into visual art therapist, suppose, and I do know a visual art therapist which would be more helpful for the client, then I refer it to somebody else who's more available and who's more effective in terms of giving that particular therapeutic sessions.
Yeah.
Then I think making it an ethical practice as who we are the kind of company that we are building is really important, to make more now louder noises, because this is more ethical. Then that would help people to get the right help
Yeah,
rather
I
than getting help
completely
from somebody
agree.
who's not
Yeah.
actually helping in the right way.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
your first experience matters, and if you get it from an authentic
Yeah.
expert,
Hmm.
then it would kind of follow on,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very, very important.
Hmm.
So, also, Neha, Tara is such an interesting name, and like I immediately resonated with it. Where did it come from?
So it does not have just one meaning to it. Um, Very random night when I was studying, I was reading a book on psychology. I was just getting myself to read more. And this whole thing came up that I definitely know that I want. So my guru is Mahatria Ra, and I wanted Ra somewhere in my name. So I just knew that that's there in the back of my mind that I want that. And I just picked up a paper and pen. And I was like, okay, what I do is more therapeutic, it's more recreational, and these are all art forms. And I just actually literally said it that therapeutic and recreational arts, it's an abbreviation of that.
Oh,
So
wow.
TARA. And that also has Ra in it that I wanted. My childhood name is also Tara.
Oh my
And
God.
I resonated with that name more than Neha. So I kept on telling my parents that can we do this? And after getting married, I also told my husband, can we just change my name to Tara? That would be better. And now I don't need anybody's permission, because a lot of people literally call and say, hey, is it Tara? And that fulfills my whole thing that I
You're
resonate with Tara as a name. I love that name.
wow.
So that
I
is
can start
there.
calling you Tara.
Yeah, and I do not stop people. Yeah, please call me that, and I would love it. And another thing that very randomly in a conversation with a friend happened to speak about Green Tara, the first female Buddhist, and there was a random conversation about it, and I picked up some postcards that she got, and from that day, I had that postcard with me, Green Tara postcard. I went back up to search and know more about Green Tara. And when I went deeper to know the qualities and the things and the kind of personality that Green Tara resonates with, and I was like, oh my god, I so much like the goal of my life, the kind of life that I am living, and I wish to work with the kind of people. Everything just is so much resonating with. When I read about it, it just felt like, wow, this is meant for me. So I knew that at the back of my mind, I knew that I want to have something in relation to that. I didn't know Tara directly would come in form like that, but yeah, and because I have such a deeper connect with Green Tara, I also have like a huge frame of Green Tara at our center, because
Wow.
that's the first thing that was there on my mind, that I want to really have that into my space. So these are the three different reasons why actually Tara came in form.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's also a sign that you're living your purpose clearly.
Yeah.
Totally guided by the
Hmm.
divine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
All right then. Are you ready for the rapid fire?
I don't think so, but yeah. You're never ready.
All right. So, define art in one word.
Therapeutic. It is for me.
Great. What was your worst moment in life till date?
Worst moments. So I think making my parents understand what's my purpose, I think was a hitting down and then getting up from them.
All right. The best moment.
The best moment, the day actually Tara came in form, was actually living my dream come true. So that
Great. How would you define love?
love, more giving. Love for me is more giving.
Beautiful. Top 5 must haves in life for you.
Yeah, like you said, music, dancing cannot be is not possible without music. So I think must haves is my family, music, dance. Um, what else? What else? My kind of people who understand the language I speak. Um, and my work. I'm a workaholic person, so I think these are must haves. I cannot do without it.
Great. Lastly, top five desires that you want to fulfill in your life.
Just five.
Top five.
Yeah, desires that I want to fulfill. I think, yeah, I want to work each day thriving to become the best version of myself. That's a personal goal that I have. Um, be that best version so that I can give back more to the world and people. And I think I also want to see the kind of difference I can make in people's lives through the work that I'm doing. So I think seeing that transition is more important than just me earning money and getting to touch people's lives. But I want to also see that transition through who I am and the kind of work that I do. And I want to live a balanced life because sometimes being a workaholic, a lot of people around you do say that, hey, you have a lot of you prioritize your work a lot, and you have all the time in the world, even if that is at 11, 12, 1 a.m. You're still so recharged and charged to do that work. So I think I aim to live more of a balanced life, so that I contain that peace and calm that I want to be radiating with that peace and calm by living a balanced life, being an example rather than just giving out to people. So living it by example is something that I actually majorly aim for in this life. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Thank you.
Okay, now coming to, the corporate
Hmm,
sector. I mean, you do so much work in the corporate domain, and I'm
hmm,
sure you've seen major changes happening, before and after. So,
hmm,
firstly, I want to know what's your perspective on the current state
hmm,
of the corporate environment
hmm,
and how art would bring out that transformation.
hmm, hmm. I think, yeah, I'll begin from the last question because I've seen that how corporates also are very, very stuck to structured kind of
Hmm.
training programs or having a PPT slide. And I'm against all of that because I don't believe in, uh, uh, I wouldn't say I don't believe in structure, but I don't believe in having just a PPT format for us to talk about any topic. So I think breaking that pattern into corporates is something that I enjoy doing the most because people are taken aback that, hey, we have to, in these formals, we have to just get them and dance. What is it happening? So I think we all also set that tone and stage before we get to doing this, um, by saying that, hey, we're trying to break the pattern here. And while we're actually breaking the pattern, we know that the best can come out of this, and give it a try, give it a shot, see what's at the end of the tunnel when we begin this journey. So usually that's what we begin with, a lot of resistance from people we see, but at the end of the tunnel we've seen that people are just removing their jacket and we're like, hey, we want to just have fun and know that this is interesting, this is new, this is me, this is more childlike kind of a feeling. They feel more released, stress free. They forget how the time passed through the session. We also achieved the goal and the objective that the company actually gave us. They actually worked together. So I've seen that how magically we just have to tell them to push yourself to do this. Like open
Hmm.
your arms and embrace what comes your way through the next few minutes that will be with me. Allow me to do this. And then they themselves see the transformation at the end. And it's beautiful to see that side where people are going all out to actually be themselves and be informally formal. Like, you know what I mean? That being knowing that informally also there's a lot that's happening within the groups, within you as a person first, and then what you give out as a energetically to the people you work with. So that actually brings out, and when people see the real them, not like a masked person,
Hmm.
because I think in corporates I've seen a lot of masking that goes through, and that puts them into the pedestal where I have to be this way and I
Hmm.
cannot actually drop down and be myself. But in our sessions we also allow them to be themselves, whatever roles that they're playing in the different setup that they are in, we just let them be. with whatever we are doing, may that be a music therapeutic music circle or dance and drama workshops that we do, or we are doing music with the dancing. So we tell them to just drop those roles and see what feels okay for you in those moments. And then we draw the pointers down at the end of it and we summarize what we were actually doing. That then again becomes a whole like a it gives a whole picture to who they are, gives a holistic approach to the whole point. So rather than just sitting and watching a PPT, I think that's what works the best these
Yeah.
days. It's taking some time for people to get opened up also, like that country is taking some time, but I think this opening is happening by people like us getting there, asking them to just trust the process and allow us to do this, and you open-endedly just embrace what's coming and then see what's there at the end. That's been working, I guess, and that more of this work would really help a lot of corporates to touch upon tapping the real self that they are, because you're not just working, you're first working on yourself, then you that affects the productivity level, that affects your relationship at work, that affects your leadership skills. There's a lot that's changing when that one thing changes inside of you.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. And what's
Mm.
the frequency you would recommend a corporate to
Hmm.
hold these
Hmm.
sessions? Like,
Hmm.
what do you say, once in a month, or what's the ideal
Hmm.
timeline?
Hmm. So I think once a month for sure, but it also depends on the kind of people we are catering. What is the number of what are the group size that we are catering? What is the group size of the company that we are catering? What are the intentions and objectives that we are touching upon? But maybe therapeutic group setups once a month for sure. But there are certain companies who also call mental health professionals to be there once a week, where people can come and talk to these as their space to be themselves in the one-on-one setup. So I think that's something that must be there at least once a week. But in a group training or therapeutic purposes, once a month is definitely like something that I would suggest, but in an ongoing process and not just one-off session, because
Hmm.
one-off session will open up a lot, will give you awareness, will give you certain giveaways and takeaways in those moments. But when we do an ongoing work, it's profound to see that gold comes up. Literally, there's more that people are not just aware, they are applying what they're learning. And that application in the next session comes out that, hey, I think I applied and this worked wonders. What more can we do then? And that process, I think, has been really effective in terms of we as professionals giving what we're doing the best, and they at the receiving end also getting more than just what one session would do. So
I'm
I think
sure.
ongoing work is something that I love doing,
Hmm.
because that does have it's more effective
I'm
in
sure
that.
every session you can see the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah, and you
amazing.
can touch upon different topics each
Hmm.
session based on what the first session was, and then move from there to the other, and a lot more that can be touched upon when you meet them often.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Wow. And to summarize, if you had to list down some benefits for a
Hmm.
corporate
Hmm.
specifically of
Hmm.
taking up
Hmm.
these sessions, what all would you say?
Hmm. I think I would say that often we look at what the objective is, but rather I would break it down to, let's work on human beings first. Let's work on my shortcomings. Let's work on what are the areas of growth that I know I can grow with. And from that I to the other, like to the partners, to the entire group, then there's a magical shift that happens. So I think I would also say that let's work on human beings of our company first, or of the people you're working with, of the employees. Let's work at the core level of who they are, and then see it unfolding it into the entire group,
Hmm.
right? So because it's all interconnected, so I would suggest that we work on the core level of the person that they are, and then seeing that unfold differently.
Which reflects
Yes.
in the productivity and the numbers.
Yeah, yeah. It
Which,
reflects on the way you're
yeah,
enjoying and having fun. You're loving
yeah.
the work. The culture also changes. I've seen how the space, the cultural environment of that space changes altogether. I would want to feel like going to work then. So then when that one thing is changing, you're changing the way you're interacting with people around you. You're changing your presence. You are more available to help and not just asking always for help. So you're giving and receiving in a more healthier form. And I think I've seen that over time, helping people a lot. So I would say work on the raw level and then see the bigger benefits of it. Yeah. So having
Wow.
that bigger benefit and the goal, of course, on our minds, but let's begin one step at a time to get to that.
To build
Yeah.
a happiness culture.
Yeah, to build a culture which is more wholesome. Yeah.
Beautiful. I think the
Mm.
financial health of a company totally depends on the mental
Mental
health
health.
of the team. And it's high
Absolutely.
time, I think, all the leaders need to realize
Yeah.
this, because this investment can
Mm.
exponentially give them
Mm.
returns,
Mm.
probably 100x of what they're
Yeah.
putting in.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Wow, this was amazing, Neha. Any last message that you would like to give our audience?
Any last message? I think live to the, like, there is this unknown tapping energy that talks about your purpose of life, and I think touching that also a lot, that gives you more clarity to where you want to go next. So touching upon that who you are and living an aligned life is something that each one must aim for. That's what I have been aiming each day. If I feel disintegrated, let me just integrate and feel more connected to who I am, at and staying more grounded to who I am. That brings out the best of me. Yeah, so I think that's more important, groundingness and staying in touch with your purpose. Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Such a beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
I loved every bit of it. I hope you enjoyed it.
I loved it. I loved interacting and loved how one question led to the other,
Yeah.
bringing out the best out of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for giving us this wisdom. It was very, very enriching. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure the audience would pick up a lot from this.
Mm.
And I hope that we all bring art back into our lives
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
become joyful humans.
Thank you.